Okay, we are rolling. We are ready. We are live. Me, Arknolia Storkabine, and the great YR. We are live on Ark.
Hello.
Hello. All right. All right, okay. So, before we begin, which by the way is going to be the first part of our Big British Five series here that we're doing here, taking a look at all the five big British bands there that influenced heavy metal, starting with Deep Purple there because of their massive amount of loudness in their shows and their songs and their playing there. One thing I would ask is, YR, have you talked to Joe Blonin lately since last night?
No.
Okay, because I was just trying to ask him what was he drinking? Was he drinking last night? Because he was way incoherent.
Whiskey.
What again? He was what?
Whiskey. I think he drinks the dark stuff.
Oh yeah, the whiskey. Because I was trying. Because man, he was like belligerent as Bullfrog was at times. I mean, I tried to ask him, was he drinking? He kept saying, "Oh, you're talking to C man. You're talking to C man." It's like, and finally that kind of got me frustrated. That's why I left the call like I did. I tried to call back, but the show had already ended. So, so I even did a vlog earlier asking Mr. Blonded to next time don't drink before you come on the air. So that's all.
That's the drinking show.
Yeah. It wasn't really a drinking show. It was a little drama show. Trying to convince Minnesota Vikings fan to stop saying this bullshit, saying I'm living up all time when he isn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, come on. You're instead of calling your just instead of this low opinionated bullshit of yourself, instead of saying, you know what, I'm going to change my direction when it comes to YouTube and everything else here, including my life.
You gotta stay
That's
positive. Well, we do before we get into Deep Purple.
yeah, that's right.
We do have some news.
Hmm.
I just told Brad. I don't know if he had any other news, but let's start off with what do you think about Kelly Osbourne being pregnant with first baby?
Oh, really?
Uh,
Yeah, yeah. I just heard about. I didn't heard about this until now. Let me see if I'm going to
Now
look
is
it up here.
Jack? Does Jack have? His son Jack have kids? Like,
I
or is
think
this
so. Yes.
Ozzy? Okay.
So Ozzy is a granddaddy, I guess, many times there. Remember, he was married before. I think his other
Ah.
son, Lewis, has a child and a wife and that there. But Ozzy, by the way, who was, I guess, is supposed to be working on a new record, if I'm correct.
Mm-hmm.
I guess, for I understand, Kelly Osbourne, I'm looking it up right now because we haven't heard from much from Kelly Osbourne in a long, long while there. I know she had her issues with drug addiction for a while, which, by the way, as we all know, costed her music career, unfortunately. Obviously, the record label that she was signed to decided, you know what, we're not going to have this girl if she's going to get wasted like that. And here's what she has. Here's what we got from People.com here. Okay, here we go. She is ecstatic that she is expecting her first born baby. She announced it on Instagram today, Thursday, that her boyfriend and herself, Sid Wilson, are expecting their first baby together. Now, 37-year-old Kelly, who was also a co-host of the show Fashion Police with the late Joan Rivers, announced that she is expecting her first baby with Sid Wilson, who was one of the members of Slipknot. They shared the pregnancy news on
Really?
Instagram, yes, alongside a
Ah.
selfie of her holding an ultrasound photo. She said, quote, I know I've been very quiet these past few months, so I thought I would share with you as to why. I'm over the moon to announce that I am going to be a mama. To say that I am happy doesn't quite cut it. I am ecstatic. Yep. Now, Kelly, as you know, was considered the brat of the Osbournes TV show. She had a brief music career, as you know. She redid the
Uh,
Black Sabbath song "Changes" with her father there, and with, of course, with touched up lyrics. Of course, they changed the lyrics on that song to make it more sort of like a father-daughter type
so like
relation.
when
Yeah.
obviously this is probably back. maybe 2002, 2003 when that show came out.
Oh man,
Right,
it was big.
Osborne,
It was big, man. But me,
huge show,
it was
huge.
massively. In fact, that would start a whole bunch of other reality shows that try to copy what the Osbournes was trying to do. I mean, like E Entertainment had the Anna Nicole show with Anna Nicole Smith,
Right.
and yet she was portrayed as this out of touch, out of sync, blonde-headed with a bimbo-like approach to everything. She often acted like she was out of it. If you ever watch any episodes of that show, there, you know. Of course, it also inspired a reality show on Lorenzo Lamas, the actor, spotlighting how crazy that family is. They even had a family on the Carter family. Nick Carter from the Backstreet Boys and his little brother Aaron Carter, who now looks like a gangster thug, unfortunately. Now he's got even some tats on his face there. Why, I have no
Yeah,
fucking know why.
like a rat. He think he's like a this rapper
I
guy
don't
now,
know. It's
whatever. You know what
everybody's
I'm
been.
saying?
I know they're all trying to look like. They're all trying to look. I never understood tattoos on your face. That's one thing I
Right.
can never understand. It's just, I mean, come on. Let alone gauging your earlobes. I'm sorry. It just makes no sense. But every reality show at that time had to be like the Osbournes, zany, wild, chaotic, drama, 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 everywhere. And then,
Right.
I mean, everyone was following along. Even MTV comes up with another one, Newlyweds, with Jessica Simpson and her husband at that time, Nick Lachey from the 98
Mm-hmm.
Degrees boy band there. So, obviously, congratulations to Kelly Osbourne and Sid Wilson on the announcement of their firstborn, which will be here in 9 months, as you all know. And hope the baby's born well, no diseases, all four limbs, no issues, this and that there, no problems.
And then, have you ever heard of this band called the Black Dahlia Murder?
Yes, I have, and I heard about it. Their lead singer died, I understand, there at age
Dive into that a
41.
little bit. I have no idea what kind of band is it. Like a heavy metal band? Is it
I
newer? It's
think
a
it
newer
is. I
2000s
think it's
band,
more
or
of a 2000 band there. I have heard the name many times in the past. I have yet to even hear any of their material there, but I imagine it'll be something like in the vein of Slipknot or Slipknot meets Cannibal Corpse or something like that. But the way the logo is, the fonts they use in their logo kind of details what kind of hardcore heavy metal band that they are, basically. But their
right?
singer, whose name escapes me, passed away, I guess, today at the age of 41 for some unknown reason there. Rest in peace to him.
Or a lot of people are suicide. Like even y'all remember you remember that country western group, the Judds?
Yeah.
Yeah,
The
Naomi
mo-
Judd.
the mother yeah, came out that she committed suicide. She shot herself. So it
And
was mental illness and all that. So
I guess it was also,
uh,
I understand was she going through dementia, Alzheimer's, or was it
yeah,
other mental?
yeah, it's like a mental illness, and that came out. Yeah, she shot herself. So a lot of people, you know what I'm saying? It's not good, man. Sad, but
It's even more
um,
heartbreaking because, Naomi and Winona, they were like one of the most successful mother-daughter duos in the world of country music. My sister used to
yeah,
talk. My sister used to praise them for looking so good. You couldn't even tell which one's the mother or the daughter. You know.
well, a lot of deaths. Even Mickey Gilley passed away.
Yeah, I heard about that as well. He was the
So
guy. He was the guy who ran that place, Gillies. I guess where is it here in Texas somewhere? If I'm
yes,
correct. Yeah.
Pasadena.
In fact, I believe that's wasn't that the place that location used in the urban cowboy movie making back in
Yes,
1980 with John Travolta?
yes,
Yeah,
yeah.
that place is iconic. So no doubt there's going to be a lot of tributes coming going into that place. People will be around that venue with the candles in his honor there because he was like one of the OGs of the country music world there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
a
believe
couple
that's in
deaths
Fort
there.
Worth.
Mm.
What?
That Gilly's
Gillies.
place.
Oh yeah, the new ones. There's one in like Vegas, and there's a couple of like the original. It was burnt. It burnt down a while back, long
Wow.
time ago, and it was in Pasadena, which is a suburb of Houston.
Mm.
Kind of like on your way, where the oil refineries are. Because when you watch the movie, that's when this is a job he works at. John Travolta, he's like a hand at one of the oil refineries there.
Yeah.
Great movie. I mean, I've seen it a million times,
Massive
and it's part of
blockbuster.
the whole part of the culture down there in Houston. Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah,
And
you
then
want.
another news piece. Do you want to finish up on that? I have one more news piece that we start on the Deep Purple,
Mm-hmm.
which I
Go
don't
on.
know nothing about. I mean, I'm gonna learn what y'all have to say about them. I absolutely know nothing. I know the what's his name, Richie Blackmore,
Yes, the
Yeah.
former
right?
Deep Purple guitarist,
And then what was the singer's name?
Ian
Depends
Gillan.
on which.
Ian, well, the Ian Gillan's the main frontman that Deep Purple we know and love, next to David Coverdale. But it was Gillan and Blackmore that the ones that usually have the most fights in the Mark II lineup there.
We're gonna dive into that. It's our last piece of the news. You remember that group Candlebox?
Yes, I do. Yeah,
Um, Kevin Martin, ever heard of him?
yeah, he was the singer for that band.
He's gonna call it quits after the third. They're gonna do this 30-year anniversary tour thing, and he's gonna retire after that.
I see there.
Um,
Well, I
another one of
wasn't.
those '90 bands,
Yeah, I was. There's some of that. They're, of course, from Seattle as well, but they waited a couple years to make it onto the scene there. Didn't want to get in mixed with the Seattle craze during that time, or during the 91,
Mhm.
92 periods there. I wasn't a big fan of their music. I thought some of their stuff was kind of like kind of wishy-washy there. When you think about it, it's
I mean,
more
they
like
had that one song. They had that
Far
one song they
Behind.
played on the radio. Far behind, yeah, they played it on the radio a lot, a
Yeah,
lot. They played on.
which, by the way, is written about a friend of his who'd passed away, who died from drug use there. And we don't forget the song "You," which came out before that song, before "Far Behind," which was Kevin Martin himself saying "fuck you" to the drugs, "fuck you" to the dealers, fuck drugs in general. Basically, he was
Right.
going through some drug addiction issues at that time as well. There, and he detailed that in that song. And so, but unfortunately, like I said, I wasn't big on Candlebox. In fact, at that time, I was really getting into the underground stuff, like the bands I'd often mentioned in our vocals lists and other lists there, like Sisters of Mercy. I was still into Black Sabbath, Priest. I would listen to
Right.
Unleashed in the East a couple times. Was headed down from my home to City Club when after I got home, changed and went down on the weekends there. Blah blah blah, and it was like I was getting into other acts like Scorn, a project called Techno Animal. I was into the deep underground stuff like
Yeah.
Merzbow,
Yeah.
Godflesh, in the industrial, the dark stuff there. Bands they would play at the City Club like Funker Volt, um, 16 Volt, which was a trio of a guitar player, singer, bass player, and a drum machine. Alien Sex Fiend. We were into the more darker goth stuff at that time there.
Odd.
Yeah, yeah,
Well, I
absolutely.
think it's time. We've heard of the gray zone and everything, but I think it's time we dip into
Deep
the color
Purple.
purple.
Yeah, that's right. The
Deep purple,
Purple
ladies and
Zone.
gentlemen.
That's right. Deep Purple. Still together after all these years. Of course, the lineup now is, of course, drummer Ian Pace, guitarist Steve Morse, Roger Glover on bass, Don Airy on keyboards there, and of course Ian Gillan on vocals. You know, they're still. I guess they're releasing a new record. I don't know when or where they're at. I guess they're going to do some shows. They're still touring. Of course, the Mark II lineup, which is of course Pace, Gillan, Glover, John Lord, Richie Blackmore. Yeah, any of the chance of that lineup coming back won't happen anytime soon because John Lord passed away, I guess, a couple years back. I think it was 10 years ago since his passing, if I'm correct. And two, as we mentioned, Gillen and Blackmore, they had humongous fights
Hmm.
within that lineup there. In fact, I remember one of the members, I think I forgot it was, everyone's been going good, everyone's getting along, except for, of course, Gillen and Blackmore. Those two used to fight vigorously throughout that group there. And finally, it got to the point where I guess Blackmore decided he wrote a letter to the management saying, I'm quitting the band. I can't handle this no more. And basically wants nothing to do with Deep Purple ever again. Now, Blackmore later on had put together Blackmore's Night with Candace Knight, his significant other. They released a
Mm.
lot of Renaissance type music like Shadow of the Moon, Under a Violet Moon, a Christmas album, and a couple others there. They still perform at Renaissance festivals here and there. I was hoping maybe they'll probably perform at the next one, Renaissance Festival, when me and my sister and nephew and his friends go, if that's possible this year there. But, of course, and by the way, I shall mention that a couple occasions he's brought back his post Purple band, Rainbow, to do some shows here and there. Of course, it's a different lineup. It's Richie Blackmore's Rainbow. Keep in mind, Ronnie James Dio, the original frontman, he's no longer here. Cozy Powell, with the drummers, he's no longer here. And a couple other members have moved on to other things in life there. I don't know where keyboardist Tony Carey has been. He was involved with that group in its early carnations. He later would leave and to put together his solo career and Planet P project. You remember the song Why Me back in 1982 when the Planet P album came out that year. And
Yes.
of course, Blackmore's doing his own thing there. He wants nothing to do with Deep Purple, period, altogether there. In fact, when they were inducted to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, Deep Purple had to show up as the lineup that they're currently in. As I mentioned, no Blackmore in sight, period. So, Purple, as you know,
But let's
started.
start.
Go ahead there.
I was going to say, but let's start with Mark 1,
Yeah. All right.
which was basically Blackmore, Pace, Lord,
Mm-hmm.
Nick Semper, and Rod Evans, I believe.
Yeah, Rod Evans. I believe Rod Evans was the singer and Nick Simpler was the bassist, if I'm correct, if I remember. Because
I think that's correct, yeah.
yeah, because we did a show
And
on them many months back, last year.
they released 3 albums on the Tetragrammaton label.
Which was co-owned by Bill Cosby and his management.
Right. Which, personally, I like the 3 albums.
Yeah. I remember having Shades of Deep Purple on cassette for a while there, and pretty good stuff there. Including a different version of the Beatles' Help, as well as the big song from that record, Hush, the Joe South cover there.
Yeah. Yeah, they did lots of covers on those first 2 albums.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even think they had a cover on. Yeah, they did. Lelania.
Mm-hmm. All right. And keep in
The
mind,
third one used to be really hard to find.
yeah,
Brown,
yeah,
Brown, check this out.
yeah.
Ready?
Okay, what is it? It's Skype Chat?
I've
No, I'm
heard
saying
that song.
Oh, we know that song like the back of our hand. Smoke on the
that's
Water.
like usually the first song every guitar player learns.
Absolutely there. Great, easy song to learn.
Do you play yours with one string, or do you do the 2 middle strings at
I
the same
do.
time?
I'm doing the 2 middle strings right now. I used
Oh
to
yeah.
do the half bar chords when I first learned it there, but now I realize you could do it on the middle strings there, the D and the G.
Yeah. And that's basically their one. I mean, that's really honestly, it's the only song I know, and I hear y'all talk about, and then Oh, I remember that, but that's really the only song that comes to mind for me.
Oh, there's a lot more others. There's Perfect Strangers from 1984 when the Mark II lineup got back together. Highway Star, Space Trucking, Fireball, No No No, Woman from Tokyo. All these other songs there.
Right.
Speed King, Child in Time, Flight of the Rat. You know, great songs they have done. I had one of their. I remember getting Machine Head, their main album for Christmas years back there. Pictures of Home was one of my favorites from that record. We cannot forget Lazy as well, a real good blues jam there. And we also cannot forget, I think was it called? Oh yeah, Never Before. Was about a guy missing his girlfriend so terribly that he feels physically sick there. And of course, we cannot forget Highway Star. Anyone who likes to speed down the freeway will be blasting that song, no doubt. I guess it's probably best to make a video with all the car chases, police chases on the freeways there to go along with it there. But of course, back to what Ark was saying.
Yeah, the second album, Book of Taliesin, was actually pretty good too. It was almost a concept album, if you really piece it together.
Oh, I gotta check that out.
It had at least, well, the whole album was good to me, but Listen, Learn, Read On started it. And they did a cover of River Deep, Mountain High on that album. It's about 10 minutes long. It was pretty good. Did two other songs called Shield and Anthem that were both excellent.
I was wondering who originally did River Deep, Mountain High, because I remember there was a version by Ike and Tina Turner that someone that I was dating, she was looking for that song endlessly.
Yeah, and Eric Burden and the Animals covered it too.
Oh wow! So that was but that song was definitely a popular one.
Yeah, and was it that album or the first one that had Hard Road, Ring That Neck on it?
Ah, okay.
The instrumental.
I see there.
I think it's the flip side of Hush on the single.
Well, we'll have to look find out on the Wikipedia, I guess, when we get the time.
Is a very, very good instrumental.
All right. Yeah. Give it up to the Perps for coming up with some good instrumentals at times here.
Yeah, and the third album, like I said, had some great stuff, but it used to be very hard to find because they only released 100,000 copies or whatever.
Because some of them are releasing on these many independent labels out there that really get their stuff out there. When you think about it, there,
yeah, they had a few good songs on that. Fault Line, The Painter, Chasing Shadows.
And shout out to Beast Incarnate in my chat mentioning the 10-minute version of Child in Time. I think you mentioned that as well, Ark. Yeah.
That is a great song.
Yeah, it is, because it's an anti-war song, And I remember in the liner notes of the In Rock album, they had the list of songs and the band detailing what it's really about in a kind of a humorous way. And they detailed as a story about a loser, it could be you.
Yeah.
Turns out we know what it's really about now there.
Yeah, and the first live album they did, Made in Japan.
Classic.
Oh my gosh. If you ever want to hear a song that'll just blow your socks off, their version of Space Trucking on that album is incredible.
Oh yeah, that's one of the top live albums next to Unleashing the East, Live After Death, Frampton Comes Alive, and also Kiss Alive as well.
Yeah, and that song ran about 19 minutes.
Yeah, wow.
I think it was 19 minutes.
And I also got to give it up to the live version of Smoke on the Water on that album just as well there. That's actually the first Deep Purple song I heard from them, was the live version of Smoke on the Water, because they did that version powerfully, very powerfully.
That's
on
a good
that album.
version of Lazy on that album.
Oh, too. Yeah. You know what? now that you mentioned, I'm going to list when I get done with the chores after our show. I'm going to definitely find that record on YouTube and listen to the dang thing. Definitely. All right. Of course,
I think it opens with Highway Star.
I think it does. Yeah. I have to wait and definitely check it out there. Of course, after those three records came out, they switched a couple of members. Evans and Snipper would leave. Go ahead.
Right.
And then Ian
Right.
Gill. Yeah, right. Yeah. And then Roger Glover would be the new bass player, and Ian Gillan would be the new singer.
Right.
And of course, they would record albums as the ones I mentioned. Fireball, Machine Head, In Rock, Who Do You Think We Are? Which, by the way, was the last record featuring the Mark II lineup before Perfect Strangers, like I said, in 1984.
Well, they also released something called Concerto for Group and Orchestra.
Oh yeah, that was it.
Which is semi-obscure.
Yeah, the one they did with the in the Roy Albert Hall with an orchestra there.
Right.
I had that record as well, and I was told it was one of the worst Deep Purple records ever there. A lot of people would kind of criticize it, just, I don't know, the vibe. I don't know. I just had trouble trying to adjust to it, trying to figure out the record myself when I was listening to it there myself.
Right.
And a lot of people saying, that just wasn't, people saying it was just basically was John Lord's idea. And whether it was successful back then or not, is anyone's guess. But it was.
Well, I used to have the vinyl.
Yeah, so did I. I picked it up at, I guess it was a garage sale or I think it was a garage sale or a resale thrift shop or something like that. I found it. It's like, oh, this is interesting. And it's like, I'm listening to it like, I don't know if I like it or dislike it. That's all I can really say.
Yeah, it was kind of hard to get into.
I know, but then again, when the bands often do experimental shit there, you often get that reaction from fans, The same thing with Metallica and Lou Reed years on down the line. Right. And of course, come 1974, I think it was, when Ian Gillan departs, Roger Glover departs, and they're replaced with David Coverdale on vocals, and also Glenn Hughes on bass guitar, who was previously in a band called Trapeze with the late Dave Holland and the guitarist Mel Gallery.
Yeah.
That's right.
And that lineup only released 2 albums as far as I know.
I think so. Burn and Stormbringer, I think it was called.
Right.
And then the last record was the Mark III lineup. It was Richie Blackmore decides to leave, and he was replaced with Tommy Bolin. That album, Come Taste the Band, came out in 1976. Whether it sold well or not, we don't know. But after that, the band folded for good. Of course, a couple of members would decide to form a band called White Snake. Well, actually, White Snakes, this was actually Coverdale's, idea. I guess later on, John Lord and Ian Pace would become members themselves of that group. Blackmore had his Rainbow going on. Gillan had the band Gillan happening soon afterwards, featuring, I guess, one of the guitar players who's currently with Iron Maiden right now, Yannick Gears, I think his was. And of course, Roger Glover, don't know what he got, other music project he got into, but he did some producing of various bands. One of them, Judas Priest, Sin After Sin, from 1977. And a great production he did on that album, I should say there.
Wow.
Yeah, he produced that album there. He also released a solo record prior to the Perfect Strangers album that was titled Mask. I remember hearing the title cut from it on MTV around that time there, and it was said it was not really a rock and roll album. When come to think of it, I should probably find it on YouTube if it exists there and listen to that song again and other tracks from that record, come to think of it. I was thinking about that earlier today when I was driving.
You're going to have a lot of listening coming up.
Oh, absolutely, man. But then again, I'm always open to new stuff there.
Yeah.
All right.
Then after they were apart for a while, the Mark II lineup got together again.
Yep. A year after Ian Gillan's short stint with Black Sabbath. Remember the album Born Again? I gave so much high praise to. Badass metal album, in my opinion. There, I saw them at the Cobo Arena with two neighbors of mine and my sister's then at the time boyfriend. You know, I wanted to stay for the whole encore. I was enjoying it so much because it's Black Sabbath, but everyone wanted to leave early to avoid the traffic rush, which
Yeah.
now at that time I was pissed off about. I didn't want to leave, but now I realize probably they were right because traffic buildup after a concert or an event is an absolute motherfucking bitch to deal with. Gosh, I cannot tell you how many times we had to go through traffic whether the Detroit Red Wings won a game, Detroit Pistons won a game, or the Detroit Tigers won the World Series there. Gosh. Whether it be to win the NBA, world title, whichever it was, traffic would be nonstop, packed to the gills, and that would happen at after concerts just as well there. Wow. So, the Mark II lineup releases Perfect Strangers, which became a massive radio hit, along with Knocking on Your Back Door, Nobody's Home, other songs as well there. They followed it up with The House of Blue Light, which came out in 1986. Call of the Wild was one of the lead songs from that album there. That album did pretty good there as well. Then they released an album titled Nobody's Perfect, which is a live album with their version of Hush, because previously they did not perform that song for obvious reasons. It wasn't that lineup. And then out of the blue, Gillan leaves, and in 1980 they would get Joe Lynn Turner, who was the last singer in Ritchie Blackmore's Rainbow. They released it, Slaves and Masters, and the song, I forgot the title of the hit single, and they did a tour as always there, blah, blah, blah. Then in 1994, Gillan returns again. The Mark II lineup is back in fold for the third time. They released it, The Battle Rages On. This was on the label called Giant Records that was distributed by Warner Brothers. I heard the title cut for that album, which was pretty good there on the old Z-Rock. Remember Z-Rock, YR? YR?
No.
Oh, man. Oh, you missed out, man. It was based out of Dallas, Texas. They would have broadcast stuff all over selected affiliates across the U.S. Detroit was one of them.
Oh, radio program?
Radio program, radio station. Yes, it was a whole radio station based out of Dallas, Texas. And they would have affiliates all over across the nation there, Detroit included. Every Thursday at the Ritz and Roseville was Z-Rock Night. I remember one of the MCs, his name was Steve Black. Shout out to him. He now works at a other radio station up there in D-Town there. He's still there to this day. And, of course, other guy named Scott Randall. He was to be on Z-Rock this as well. Now he's part of that other station with Steve Black as well there. Shout out to Screaming Scott as well. Okay, so then Blackmore decides to leave after it was one final argument with Ian Gillan. They get Steve Morse, who used to play with the Dixie Dregs and did a short stint as the lead guitarist for Kansas. Then they decide to release more albums on the independent labels like CMC International, like Now What, Purple something there. I forgot the one title.
Perpendicular.
That's right. And there's
Perpendicular.
Absolutely there. And I guess their last studio release was a covers album titled Turning to Crime, and which featured covers, I guess, it was a covers album basically there, you know. It was their cover album. I guess a lot of times the artists will have to put out cover albums, you know, like I know Metallica had theirs, Garage Incorporated, Ozzy Osbourne had an EP called Undercover there. You know, a band called Trickster had their covers album. And that was the thing at that time there. So Purple finally got under craze years later on down the line. All right. Now, Gillan was considered, as you know, leather lungs a lot of time by the press because of the way he would shriek his vocals. And some say he may have been an inspiration for Rob Halpert's shrieking on those Judas Priest records. And of course, you know, Blackmore's guitar skill. Blackmore, I guess you could say, was a very unpredictable character at times on stage. You know, I remember seeing, you know, the live concert, Live Between the Eyes by Rainbow with Joe Lynn Turner on vocals, filmed in San Antonio, Texas that year, 1982. And Blackmore has been known to do a lot of crazy stuff with his guitar. He would smash it, he would break it. I mean, like, who cannot forget the California Jam in 1974 when he not only busted 3 of his guitars, and he also blew up an amplifier to boot. He also started jabbing at the cameraman with that broken guitar a couple times. He was about to be arrested, but so they had to scoot out real quick there after their performance, you know. But Blackmore at the time was a very unpredictable character, as I mentioned there.
Well, I just looked up that covers album just to see what was on it.
Yeah.
7 and 7 is.
Mm-hmm.
It's an old love song. It's a very good song.
Ah. All right.
Rockin' Pneumonia Boogie Woogie Flu.
Oh.
Johnny Rivers song.
Ah, nice.
Oh, well.
Oh, well, the Fleetwood Mac song, yeah, written by
Right.
Peter Green.
Jenny Take a Ride.
By Mitch Ryder and the Detroit Wheels.
Watching the River Flow.
Yeah, I don't know who
Dylan.
did that. Okay, well, Bob Dylan, that's right, I heard what you
Right.
say.
Let the Good Times Roll.
Yeah, not the Cars tune, because it was a Cars tune at the same title there. I thought, wow, this is interesting there.
No. And Dixie Chicken.
Which is
Little Feat's,
Little Feat's song there, done by Lowell George, who, as it sadly, is no longer with us as well. He passed away in 1980.
The Shape of Things, or Shapes of Things.
Yeah, we know that song. The Yardbirds, Jeff Beck did that song there, as well as Gary Moore, who's also no longer with us.
The Battle of New Orleans. Old Johnny Horton's song.
Ah, nice.
Lucille.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm sorry, Lucifer.
Oh, Bob Seger System.
Yeah.
Mm.
White Room.
White Room, the Cream tune. All right.
And it looks like they did a medley that included Caught in the Act,
Oh.
Going Down, Green Onions,
Mm.
Hotlanta, Dazed and Confused,
Mm.
and Give Me Some Lovin'.
Of course, Days of Confused featuring there's a Zeppelin tune, right? Or Jake Holmes / Led Zeppelin.
Right.
Mm.
That's an interesting list.
All right, there,
I'm going
definitely.
to have to see if I have that, and if I do, I'd like to play through it and see what it sounds like.
You know what? I might do the same myself, especially the last tune, the melody that you mentioned there. It'd be interesting to hear how Ian Gillan interprets Robert Plant when you think about it there.
Yeah.
All right. All right. So the choice. So as we all know, Purple's still together. Blah blah blah, doing their thing, performing. They all got the gray hair, as you know. You know, Ian Pace, Ian Gillan. You know. Now we got to also talk about the other bands that they were involved in as well, Pace, as you know, was involved briefly in Whitesnake in the early lineup before it became the hair metal lineup that we all know so well.
Right.
He also was involved with Gary Moore. I remember seeing the video for this song from that Gary Moore had as a single there. I forgot the title of it, but it was a rock ballad, I guess. And of course, Pace, I guess, did some. I got played with other bands, if I'm correct. I don't know which ones or which they played with.
Yeah, he might have done some dabbling, but he didn't join another group.
That's true there. Now, Don Airey, who took over John Lord's position after he retired many years back, he played with Rainbow. He also did keyboard work for the last two records with Black Sabbath when Ozzy Osbourne was their frontman. Technical Ecstasy from 1976 and Never Say Die from 1978. He did the keyboard works for that album as well. Which, by the way, you got to check out the song Air Dance from Never Say Die. Very touching song there. It's about a woman who was unable to dance for some reason, looking at pictures, going through the memories, and feeling heartsick as she looks through the memories, It was also covered by this female artist whose name escapes me there, and she did a pretty good cover of that song when you think about it there. Almost so similar to the original.
Yeah.
Right. All right, so now, YR, you mentioned Rainbow a couple of times in the past. You remember the songs like Man on the Silver Mountain, Long Live Rock and Roll, all those other songs. We also aware of the song Stone Cold from 1982, as well as Dead Alley Driver. Oh, those Stone Cold was a massive hit on the radio. It was a massive ass hit when that record came out. I mean, Bend Out of Shape. A lot of women activists were complaining about the cover of that album because it had this altered image of a woman, walking through this doorstep. But the doorway that she was looking through was kind of like shaped it was shaped like a woman's vajayjay. So I guess a lot of women were questioning the cover of that record there. But the songs they had with Joe Lynn Turner as their frontman was they were probably the most successful. And we also cannot forget the song All Night Long from 1980. Graham Bonnet, who would later join Michael Schenker's group there late years on down the line. Two hit songs from that album, Down to Earth, and by the way. Of course, All Night Long and Since You've Been Gone. In fact, the only guitar player we know that's been kind of like trying to mimic his onstage style, which is all the jumping, the poses, and that, would have to be Yngwie Malmsteen. A lot of times, he often tried to act like Blackmore, play the same type of guitar that Blackmore would play, which was a Fender Stratocaster. Even Blackmore even said something, I guess a lot of he's doing is kind of like similar to what I was doing there. Now, Graham Bonnet had some harsh words for Malmsteen. He said he stuck out like a sore thumb. He always all ego with that boy there, blah, blah, blah. Which is often true a lot of times, according to media reports. And I mentioned that because Bonnet and Malmsteen were in this band called Alcatraz together. I guess released a couple records before Malmsteen departed and was replaced with Steve Vai. And that was back in 1984 there. Now, we all know the song Smoke in the Water. That song was based on that was based on the true life story. And what it was is that Frank Zappa and the Mothers of Invention were doing a performance at some theater in Montreux, Switzerland. Deep Purple was going to try to record their record, I guess, in another room, I guess, when all of a sudden a fire breaks out. No word on what the fire was or what happened there. But a bootleg recording of the Zappa performance was recorded and released it as, of course, as I mentioned, a bootleg. And at the end of the album there, it says, fire, fire, everybody is going to make way to the door safely there. And, of course, the place burned down.
To the ground.
To the ground, yep. Purple had to relocate to a hotel there, which nobody, I guess it was a vacant hotel. It was cold and all that. And that's where they finished the album. And during the recording of that album, John Lord was coming with dun, 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 on the organ there. And Blackmore followed along. And that's where the song Smoke on the Water was born. And you know what? Kind of funny. I was wondering, was that theater that burned down, was it ever a place with a new venue or another theater, or was it considered a landmark?
I don't know the answer to that question.
Well, I also know that there was a little small newspaper clip and a small photo of that theater burning down included in the gatefold of Machine Head. And he even had a little condolences notice to the people of Montreux. You know, it's expressing sympathy for their for the loss of that place there. I guess at that time it was like a shock to the press there. It was kind of like it may or may have been their 9/11 in 1972 or 1. Either way. Because that was like a big shock to the system of that area there, for what I read a couple times there. Right. Okay, so if you guys had the chance, would you like to see the Mark II lineup give a few more shows?
Yeah, but that's impossible.
I know, because obviously, John Lord is no longer around, as we stated a couple of times, and Blackmore and Gillan would have to be multi-convinced to share the stage once again, let alone do a tour. Because the fights between those two were like a dynamic. Even Lars Ulrich even talked about it in a couple of interviews when the Deep Purple Behind the Music series came out. In fact, there was an incident that happened overseas. I'm going to look it up right now with the Mark III lineup with Hughes and Coverdale. Let me look up here. Deep Purple. Purple Korea incident. Okay, let me see if it was in. Oh, here, what's going on here?
See if something comes up.
All right, there. Smoke on the Water. Okay, let's see here. Okay, I'm looking for it because there was a murder that took place overseas in this. I think it may have been Hot Thailand or something like that. I'm trying to blah, blah, blah. Let's see here. Blah, blah, blah. Let's give me a couple of minutes here. I'm going to report on that because that was definitely. Let's see here. Bangkok. It may have been Bangkok there. Son of a bitch, Incident in fucking hell, man. I'm trying to find a whole this incident. There was an incident with the Mark III lineup where I guess one of the roadies was murdered or something like that, or possibly murdered or died. I guess you have to look on the web. You have to look on Rock and Roll True Stories, that YouTube channel that has that whole story up there. But it was a very interesting story there. What happened overseas there in that region there. I forgot it was in Korea, north or south, or Thailand, or Bangkok, or whichever it was there. But it was a crazy, situation up there. I'm sorry I'm unable to talk about it because, let's see here. Now, also Indonesia. I think it was Indonesia it was. Okay, here we go there. It was This is an extract from the Deep Purple biography published in 1983 about the group's disastrous visit to Indonesia in 1975. Now, this was written by Chris Charlesworth, and this article came out in 2014. The book was authorized so as far by some members of the group. Glenn Hughes, Ian Gillan, Ian Pace, Roger Glover, and John Lord, two record producers and some members of their road crew. Ritchie Blackmore declined for reasons known to himself, and a planned interview with David Coverdale fell through because of his disagreeable manager wanting to set conditions that are found unacceptable. No one vended the manuscript, however, and the book was remarkably candid, far more than most authorized blogs that simply served as PR excuses. Perhaps because at the time no one thought that Deep Purple had an afterlife at beyond the split of 1976. John Lord, especially forthright, telling his story a true dent. Now, in vote, wait, we gotta get myself ready here. In November of 1975, Deep Purple flew from Hawaii to New Zealand for one show and then to Australia for 5 shows. Japan was next, but a promoter in Indonesia got in touch and proposed a stop off on the way for a show in Jakarta. But when they got there, things went terribly wrong. From Australian police scheduled to fly north to Japan, but on the way a concert had been arranged at the Indonesian capital of Jakarta. Their brief visit to this undemocratic island nation was shattered by the most distressing event in the entire history of the group. A week later, reports reached the English press that a member of their security staff had been killed after, quote, fallen down a lift shaft. What is certain is that Patsy Collins, their bodyguard, was never seen again, and that their tour manager, Rob Cooksey, was ripped off to the tune of $750,000. The episode has never been fully explained. Cooksey said it was all a setup. He said, quote, the story from the word go was that we were due to play a theater that held 7,000 people, and as we were on the way from Australia to Japan and had our own plane, it seemed like a good way to pick up some extra money. Yay! I've been approached by an Indonesian guy named Danny Sabri, and he sent us a deposit of $11,000. That's all we got. When Cooksey arrived and went in to inspect the venue, he received his very first shock. It was an enormous outdoor stadium that held about 125,000 people, and they had never promoted a concert like this before. The stage was made from orange boxes, and the security was the army, the Indonesian army, who were in total control and in league with the promoters. Quote, I initially told Sabri that we're not going to play for the price agreed, and I wanted to call the whole thing off, but he insisted that we renegotiate. They also planned a second show the following night, which we knew nothing about until we got there. The first concert was performed over 1,000 people in a state of some... What up?
Is that on video or is that on a live album or recorded or anything?
Not that I know of, but it's
Wow.
mostly it's in one of the books on what was going on here. Now, as I said, the first concert was performed before 1,000 people in a state of some apprehension, and Cooksey realized that, taking into account the ticket price and calculating Deep Purple's concert fee as the same basis as their American concerts. The group's gross for the two shows ought to have been in the region of $750,000. He demanded a meeting with the promoters at Purple's hotel after the show. Cooksey said, quote, "It started off quite pleasantly and then developed into an argument. Then they left me alone. Very soon after that, there was an incident on one of the floors, and Patsy was killed after falling 6 floors down a lift shaft. He fell through these central heating and pipes and water ducts right through into the basement, but it didn't kill him instantly. He crawled out, got into a minibus outside the hotel, and just murmured, 'Hospital, hospital,' and died shortly after that." Cooksey was woken up at 4 a.m. and with Glenn Hughes, the bassist, and the second bodyguard, known as Paddy the Plank, was taken to the police station and formally charged with being implicated in Collins's murder. Now, Cooksey said, quote, "In my opinion, it was a setup to get me out of the way. The band had to play again that night, and it was quite literally taken from the hotel at gunpoint and pushed onto the stage. They let Glenn out to do the show, but he only played for about 20 minutes when the place went crazy. The crowds rioted and the police set dogs on the crowd. Cooksey remained in jail overnight with Hughes and Paddy and was brought before a hearing the following morning. He said the judge looked like something like a General Amin type, either way. All metals everywhere. He had this big revolver which he kept playing with. He kept spinning the cylinder, putting bullets in it. He said in his opinion the whole thing had been a tragic accident, and all we had to do was go through the informality of having our passports photostated. The bottom line is that we were paid $2,000. We had to pay that amount to get our passports back. From the courthouse, the trio were taken to the airfield where the plane was waiting with the rest of the band and the crew on board. But their problems were not over yet. One of the wheels had a puncture, and the captain requested the use of a special jack and torque wrench, but we had to pay $10,000 to use it. Damn, what the fuck is up? What a money-grubbing country this place is. Damn. Plus, he didn't have anyone there who knew how to work it. One of the roadies, Ozzy Hop, Boz Marshall, and myself, and the engineer from the plane ended up changing a wheel on the Boeing 707. Feelings were running so high at this point that there was a plot hatched to grab one of these officious little Indonesians, and throw him out somewhere over the ocean in our way to Japan. Unfortunately, I heard about it and scorched it. It was a horrendous experience. We lost Patsy. We should have made over $750,000, but in Indonesia, there is nothing you can do. When I was in prison, Ozzy Hop called our lawyer in Los Angeles, and he flew to Indonesia just after we left. He arranged a meeting with the promoter, but they chased him around the room with a machete. Damn. Let's not forget, most of check out the Parliament meetings there. It's all fists. It's a fucking battle royal in those meetings there. You know, I'm sure you ever saw the footage of all that bullshit going down in the past.
Yeah.
He landed in Tokyo not too long after we did and said, forget it. We just had to write it off. Now, Collins was a well-liked figure on the London music scene, an employee of the Artist Services Security Company, and a frequent visitor of the Speakeasy Club and other haunts of rock musicians. He had worked for several well-known acts, and with his usual partner, Fat Fred, have been featured in the hilarious article in Melody Maker, in which their exploits were graphically described by Roger Roy Hollingworth. Romantic stories that Pansy never died and, for reasons best known himself, decided to I guess, I forgot what it was. A story, they made up a story of an anonymous confidant and disappear into the anonymity of the Australian outback are whispered even now. While his fondness for cold lager provides the flimsiest, of motives, no one in the Deep Purple camp seems to have actually seen the body. Thus, the matter must rest. Wow, man. Damn.
That's quite a story.
It is quite a story. And what's really shocking about it is that somebody died. The band was like, this is probably the best reason not to play those kind of countries, I guess you say, if you're a touring band.
Yep.
You know, that's a shock and a half there. Somebody dies. You're being coaxed to get on stage at gunpoint. You're paid little that you were originally promised. It's like, that was a big rip-off story and a half, needless to say. And what I just said there was an understatement. Damn, dude. Wow.
Amazing.
I know. Now, I also want to look up the spaghetti incident between Ian, I guess it was between Ian Gillan. You okay, YR?
That was me.
Oh, okay, my bad. I thought it was YR at first, coughing.
Have a song as well, Spaghetti Incident, or no?
No, that's the Guns N' Roses album. That was a covers album, by the way. There, it came out in 1983.
Drew was talking about that. Drew did a show on that one day. I was talking about Spaghetti Incident.
Okay, there. All right. Pretty good album there. I remember hearing their version of Since I Don't Have You, which is pretty good there. Spaghetti. All right, there. I'm going to look that up right now. Spaghetti Incident. All right. All right. Let's see what we got here. Here it is. Ian Gillan's account of the notorious spaghetti incident between him and Richie Blackmore. Somewhere in the late 80s, and probably shortly before Ian Gillan's firing from the group. The relationship between Richie and I simmered and was strained. On one occasion it cracked. I was in the room when Richie burst in, furious, a china dinner plate in one hand. On the plate was spaghetti, which somebody had smothered in ketchup. Given how things were between us, I guess he assumed it was my doing. He raced over to me and said, "Did you do this?" But before I could open my mouth, he smashed the plate into my face as if it was a custard pie. You've seen that how many times there? I slowly stood up. He started dancing around with his fists, saying, come on, Dan, come on. I said, "I don't want to fight you, Richie," and turned and walked in. Excuse me there, that's the thing went out there. Turned and walked to the bathroom, where I cried with such rage and frustration. I said, "I quit." I changed my mind within seconds and realized how I would achieve it was all downhill from there. You know. So, one of the many stories behind the multiple fights that Richie Blackmore and Ian Gillan have been known to have throughout the years there. Now, let's talk about the songs. We know the songs from the Perfect Strangers. That was played a lot on the radio there. Now, we all know Deep Purple don't really do videos. The only video of them which it was actually featured was kind of like a docu-video. That's for the title cut of Perfect Strangers. They were hardly in the Knocking on Your Back Door video there. They used some concert footage along with some futuristic bikers filmed separately there. There was this one video for called "The Wild" from 1986, which the band members started saying, "No, we're not going to do videos. We're not going to be on our videos." So they had to get a whole bunch of. So the producers and director of the video, played by actors, of course, were auditioning all these people left and right to fill in the spot. And at the end, it was like a big party, and a close up of the band sitting across the way there. And Gillen says, "You see, you don't need us." Funny video when you look at it there. But Purple hardly did any video, appeared in their videos when you think about it there. Richie Blackmore even said in a Kerrang interview he hates videos, he hates MTV, even though he did videos with Rainbow for both Difficult to Cure and Straight Between the Eyes, those two albums.
Sometimes you have to do what you don't want to do just because.
It's you got to promote in a way to promote that, because at that time it was a way to promote the album, even interviews.
Right.
And God knows Prince, when he was still around, he refused to do interviews. In fact, it was a big shock back in 1985 that he did an interview for Rolling Stone that year.
Right.
Of course, years on down the line, it became the symbol instead of Prince. The artist formerly known as Prince. He would later start opening it up in various interviews. There was one where he was interviewed by Chris Rock for the VH1 channel years ago.
Right.
Yeah. But, this is one of the requirements of being in a band, if you want to be successful,
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, does any more have anything more to add, I guess, Any suggestions album to listen to? I know.
Well, I think we pretty much got into that. I'll recommend the first three, but they're not their best.
Yeah,
but they're not their worst.
I know. I remember, like I said, I had Shades of Deep Purple on cassette at one point there. They had the interesting cover of Help, the Beatles doing there. And the opening track.
I'm so glad.
I'm so glad. And let's not forget the opening track, And the Address. It's the title of that, which was a pretty good instrumental there.
Yeah.
And, of course, the Joe South cover, Hush, which was kind of a unique intro. A wolf howling into the night was always interesting there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And of course, the Purple albums like Machine Head, In Rock, Perfect Strangers are highly recommended as well. Fireball as well there. I guess.
Not like Who Do We Think We Are?
That's right.
Made Japan is fantastic.
Yeah. And of course, the one they first debuted with Coverdale, Burn, is also recommended as well, including
That's a good one.
Including the title cut there, which features both David Coverdale and Glenn Hughes on that track there. Because Glenn Hughes himself is a pretty awesome singer in his own right. Check out his vocal work on the Black Sabbath album Seventh Star from 1986. You see what I'm talking about.
There's an interesting instrumental on that album called A200.
Ah, yeah. All right. Okay. Of course, for Rainbow, the albums we would recommend would be Straight Between the Eyes, Difficult to Cure with Joe Lynn Turner
Rising.
on vocals, Rising as well with Ryan James Dio. That's one of the main ones there.
What?
You okay?
Where did they get the name Deep Purple from? Do you know, or?
I think I need to look it up there. I was y'all interesting concept there. Let me look it up once again there on the. I think it was somebody either came to mind or something like that there. Deep Purple name, okay, but the band got the name there. Well, during a brief tour in Denmark and Sweden in April, in which they would still billed as the name Roundabout, Blackmore suggested a new name, Deep Purple, named after his grandmom's favorite song. The group had resolved to choose the name after everyone had posted one on the board in rehearsal. And I guess Richie Blackmore came up with the name there.
Yeah. I remember that song. I believe it was April Stevens and God,
Yeah.
what's the name of the guy?
I'm not too sure. I don't know.
Nino Tempo, I think.
All right.
And I'm guessing.
All right. And of course,
But I
Deep
remember
Purple.
that song.
And of course, Deep Purple, if I understand, was also credited as being one of the loudest bands in rock and roll.
At that time.
Absolutely. In 1972, the Guinness Book of World Records crowned the band as the world's loudest band after 117 decibels were registered during the performance in London's Rainbow Theatre. Ian Pace said, the rock and roll went to a different level. The volume leapt up incredibly. And probably we should take a look at other bands that were extremely loud. Man. I guess the best way to describe that kind of decibels is when you put your ear next to a car alarm, right next to it, and you just pretty much get the idea there. All right. Okay. So I guess it probably closes out our part one of our Big British 5 series there, I guess. And so I guess this coming Monday will be the almighty Black Sabbath.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we know the history of Black Sabbath definitely well, but you know what? It's fun to repeat that story because it's really interesting to listen to, especially the details of the legal issues during the later years of their first line of existence there. You know, a lot of that issues they were having went into the basically the anger that they were going through at that time went into probably one of their darkest and heaviest records, Sabotage, which YR spoke highly of during our show. Record. Absolutely. A very powerful record there.
Yeah.
Absolutely there. So, Black Sabbath, part 2 of our Big British 5 series there. And you know what? This came to mind not too long ago. I think we should probably include Led Zeppelin as the 6th band there. The Big British 6. How's that sound?
All right.
Fine with me.
Absolutely, because Zeppelin deserves a massive nod without a doubt because they were influential to heavy metal musicians all around, even though Page himself said he's not a big fan of it.
Yeah.
Right. And God knows her songs have been covered relentlessly from Sheryl Crow, the Hootie and the Blowfish. They've been mimicked a lot of times by Heart, covered by Heart, I should say, mimicked and copied by Kingdom Come, Greta Van Fleet, of all acts there. Definitely, I'll definitely retitle the description here and definitely call it the Big British 6, all right? So, I guess that concludes our part 1 for today here.
Right.
All right there, definitely for Shizzle. Okay, definitely. And so I'm going to get ready to do some grocery shopping, as always I do at this time here. Okay, so any shows coming up, YR, on your channel soon, or is that it for this week, I guess?
For tonight.
What's up? That's it? Later tonight?
No, it's it for the night. No more shows.
Okay, there. All right, there. And one bit of advice, and I said this to Minnesota Vikings fan, if you went through some sort of an issue, whether it's mental, physical, or whichever that, I was getting this point across to him late last night, and YR could test to that definitely for sure, because a lot of times he said, like, I'm living on borrowed time. You're living on borrowed time as if you allow it. That's all I have to say there. I mean, like, Joe Cronin's dad died from diabetes. I mean, other people have died from diabetes. I may be next, but I'm going to do my damn best to prevent that from happening. Bottom line. Take care of yourself and you'll live a lot longer than expected. And instead of complaining that you're all living on borrowed time because I had 2 heart attacks, say to yourself, hey, I had 2 heart attacks. I'm still living. I'm still walking. I'm still talking. I'm still breathing. I'm still shitting and pissing in the toilet there. I'm still eating. I'm still doing shows on YouTube, even though most of the quality hasn't been that good as of late. You know what? I'm not a loser. I'm not a victim. I am a survivor. Whether it's physical trauma, whether it's a mental trauma, physical trauma, it doesn't matter. Say to yourself, I'm going to stand tall. I'm going to stand loud. I'm going to stand proud. I'm going to look. I'm going to look any obstacle in the face. I'm going to give it both middle fingers. Say, bitch, move the fuck out of my way. Okay. All right. Enough soapboxing for now. Monday evening, 6 p.m. 6 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. We will be back with part 2 of our Big British 6 series, focusing on the heaviest of the heavy, Black Sabbath. And for YR and for Arknolia and myself, you enjoy the rest of your Monday evening. All right? Take care, guys and gals.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you as well.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everyone.